Hey, welcome to JP's Product Pick of the Week. It's me, JP. John Park here for Adafruit Industries, and thank you for stopping by. I've got a very fun and exciting and cool and interesting to demo Product Pick of the Week this week. Before I get right to it, however, I will talk a little bit about the family of products that this Product Pick of the Week lives within, and that is one of our Stemo boards. We have a whole line of boards that we call Stemo, and this Stemo 50 is in celebration of 50, we actually have more than 50 Stemo sensor boards right now. But the question you might ask is, what is Stemo? Well, Stemo is our name of boards that can connect to each other, sensors, microcontrollers, simple things like potentiometers and switches and relays, to more complex things like barometric sensors like we saw last week, or accelerometers, or displays, or relays. All of these are things that you often want to connect up to a microcontroller, but sometimes you want to do that without soldering, and you want to use a very neat plug-and-play format. Well, that's what Stemo has. We have both 3 and 4-pin Stemo connectors, which are JST-PH, and we have 4-pin Stemo QT connectors, which are the little small ones that are a JST-SH, and that one is actually compatible with the SparkFun Quick system. Excuse me. And we also have the regular Stemo 4-pin is compatible with the Grove connector. So there's a whole bunch of different systems out there. Stemo brings them all together and lets you use loads and loads, hundreds literally, of accessories with your microcontrollers in your projects. And one nice thing with the Stemo QT in particular, or any of the I2C based Stemo boards, is that they are chainable. So you can have multiple of these boards in a row connected and avoiding each other using unique addresses on I2C. But you can hook up things like a display and a sensor and a microcontroller, no problem. So we'll take a look at something like that today. So let's see, before we go and grab our product of the week, why don't we take a look at a little blast from the past. This was the new related to this one. So I'm going to hop up into the corner here, and let's take a look at Lady Ada talk about it.
We also updated the 1.3-inch OLED, which I was showing you earlier, connected to the Circuit Playground Express. It's the larger version, and this one does have connectors on both sides. So this used to be an SPI display, and now we've made it default I2C. So that's one change. You can still set it to be SPI by cutting the 2 jumpers here if you'd like. But by default now, it's I2C, and yeah, you can plug and chain connections to it. And we also changed the mounting holes a little bit to put it on a 0.1-inch boundary. So it's a little bit mechanically different. The pinouts are the same, and by default it's I2C, and we added the auto reset circuit. I think it's a nice update, but we have been selling this for a while. It's like product number 930 or something. So I know people have been using this for a bit. So just be aware, if you've used this in projects before, there is a slight mechanical change. We made it a little bit more compact. And electrical change, you have to cut these jumpers if you want the default SPI mode. But that said, I think a lot of people are going to like the update. I think it's worth it to have it be now plug and play, no soldering required to add an OLED to a project.
Okay.
Now there it goes.
All right, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to head over to the mystery cabinet and have a look. So let's hop on over there. Yeah, there it is. All right, so this is our product pick of the week. This is the 1.3-inch monochrome OLED display in the Stema QT form factor. Now you can see mine here. I've got a little Lego add-on and a little hang tag for my board of Stema QT goodness. But the board itself has the mounting holes that you can use to mount it to anything you like. I've just chosen a little 3D printed Lego adapter here. And so speaking of which, let's have a look at my down shooter here. I'm going to let's take a look at this. In fact, let me move. Let me get myself out of the way there so you can see the full glory of what's going on here. So what I decided to do is put together a little board of Lego stuff. And so over here I have a feather. I don't have quite the proper feather adapter for Lego right now, but I have a feather board and I have a little Stema QT breakout. This is actually the quick breakout from SparkFun, and it has 2 connectors there for Stema QT. I'm running that over to our BMP 280 from last week. So this is our barometric pressure sensor. So if I plug this in right now, I'd be able to read the barometric pressure readings, temperature readings, altitude readings just in a serial port on my computer. Now what I can do in order to sort of jazz this up a bit is now take the I2C line that's running the data clock and power and ground to the barometric pressure sensor, and I can run this little Stema QT cable to my OLED display. I'm going to put on glasses so I don't flip that thing wrong there. Which way are you? There we go. All right, so we'll pop that in there. And now I'm just going to stick this to some Lego that I have sitting on the board here. There we go. So there is my OLED display. Now I'm going to plug in power, power and data on my Feather microcontroller. And you're going to see this will boot up after a second, and we'll get a display on the Feather. Let me reset it. And let's see. There we go. Do I have a loose USB? I do. Let me plug that into a different USB. There we go. All right, so my hub wasn't giving me power. Okay, so there it is. It's booted up, and you can see we've got this delightful display here. Nice, crisp monochrome. This is a 128 by 64 pixel display, and it's pixels either on or off. We get black and white, which makes it pretty easy to deal with, and it also gives it a really nice, sharp look. So, in fact, what I'm going to do is let's zoom in here for a second, and I'll refocus that so you can see a little better. So I'm going to block that light from there. There we go. That's pretty sharp in focus, and I'll move that camera a little bit. How about like that? Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So what you're going to see is here is my pressure sensor reading. So right now this is in hectopascals. This is giving me the barometric pressure reading off of that BMP 280. And I can switch it back just to our Stema QT display. And now what you might notice is that this display, while it's small, it's really clear. In fact, I'm going to tweak that focus on my down shooter even more so you can see how nice and crisp this is. Part of it too is our exposure, so let me play around with that just a second. There we go. Yeah, so it's not so blown out. You can see this gorgeous sharp display. But that might still look a little bit small for your liking, so we can scale up the text quite a bit. Let's go to a scale of 3, which is a really nice use of this display, especially if you're cycling different information on there. You can go through different pieces of info, have them displayed pretty large on there. And what I decided to do is kind of keeping with this theme of the Stema plug and play, I've actually plugged in some 3-pin Stema connector potentiometers and buttons. And so that's what you might have seen at first when I showed the Lego board is down here below. And pardon me while I refocus that. I don't want to use the autofocus. It deserves better. There we go. You'll see this is kind of complicated looking because of all the Lego involved, but these are essentially 2 potentiometer breakouts and 2 button breakouts, and those are using Stemo QT connectors to then plug into my feather. I've got these knobs hooked up here for the X position and Y position of my text, and I'm just thrilled with how buttery smooth that looks. Also thanks to C. Grover for some help with some temporary code while range slicer is being worked on that still gives me some nice smoothing of the potentiometers. And then these are the buttons that I was using to switch between different scales of the text. So 1, 2, and 3 scale. And then flipping over to my barometric pressure sensor reading. Let's go a little smaller with that. There we go. That fits nicely. So these are just a couple of uses of this beautiful, beautiful display. What I wanted to do was show you a little bit of the code involved with doing something like that. So let's see. Let me pop up a view of Adam. I gotta fix a thing that just got disconnected. 1 second. Where'd you go, Adam? There we go. So here is the code. I'm going to pull this over to the side a little bit so you can see everything. So this is the code that I'm running on here right now. You can see I'm importing some libraries for things like time, so we can put little delays in, mostly for debouncing the buttons. I've got my board so that I get my different pinouts. And then I'm using analog in and digital in to deal with the buttons and potentiometers. And then we have display I/O and terminal I/O for the font. And then also display text label, which is something that makes it very convenient and easy to do text labels. And then you can see I'm bringing in the display I/O SSD 1306. That's this OLED display driver library that you need. And then also the BMP 280, since I'm still using that Stemo QT sensor from last week for barometric pressure. Then I'm doing some setup on my analog ins, my buttons. Here I'm prepping my display on the I2C bus, and you'll see I'm also going to use that I2C bus for the pressure sensor as well. And then we set up the sort of typical hierarchy of groups and tile maps and bit maps for the way display I/O works and displaying different things, and tile grid. I'm setting up that nice little 1 pixel border that you see there. In fact, let's zoom in on the display here while we're talking about it. Get some sharp focus there. Pretty good. Let me block that light. There we go. You can even see the individual dust on there. Let's see if I can wipe that without getting any fingerprints. And then I'm setting up a bitmap where I'm drawing in my black center and white border. Then I'm drawing a label, and this is the one that says Stemo QT some of the time, and it starts out at this scale, and I think that's the position it wants, except it's going to read the potentiometers. And then I'm doing some rescaling and some sampling, averaging on the pots. And then this is where the main loop of the program is looking at the button value for turning the 2 modes on and off, as well as the right button value for flipping between the 3 scale choices, and then reading the pots and moving them around. So you can see here, it's as simple as this text label.x is going to control the position on screen of the text label horizontally, and then the text label y is what changes that vertically. So as you can see, really simple to plug and play with this. I really love that ability with the Stemo QT boards to go and use the multiple sort of daisy chain of objects. I'm not sure what the limit is before we run out of addresses, and some will have specific addresses that you'll need to include. Sometimes you'll need to cut a little trace. But the fact that you can go and add a bunch of different sensors and things and then display them with this gorgeous display, that's what makes this 1.3-inch OLED my product pick of the week. So again, I'll remind you that we're really excited about having over 50 of these Stemo boards now. So if you want to go and take a look at this one in particular, head on over to the Adafruit store And you'll notice you can get free Stemo boards right now with your order. That's one of our free deals. So you can, if you place an order of over $149 or more, then you'll get a randomly selected Stemo board. One of, I believe, 15 different boards are possible, and you won't get repeats until you get them all. And if you look here, this is our product page for this board. It's $19.95 for the monochrome 1.3 inch OLED. And this will give you some of the details about it, as well as a link to tutorials. So if you click on this link, this will take you through all sorts of OLED monochrome boards that we have, including this one in specific, the wiring of it, the setup in CircuitPython. You can also use it in Arduino if you like. I'm using it in CircuitPython here and find that very easy to work with. So that is my product pick of the week. It is this beautiful Stemo QT monochrome OLED display. So if you have any thoughts or questions about that, head on over to the Adafruit Discord. That's where the chat is happening. I'll be there. It's adafruit.it/discord if you want to get an instant invitation and discuss. And I think that's it. So thank you all for coming by today. And I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and unplug this display, and let me pull that little Stemo QT connector out of there. And what I'm going to do is actually place both that one and our little Bosch sensor that we used today, our BMP 280 pressure sensor. It's got his little cable on there still, and I'll pop that onto the display. So thank you so much, and I will see you next week at this time for another JP's product pick of the week. And if you want to tune in tomorrow, we've got a whole bunch of CircuitPython Day happenings going on. And then on Thursday, I've got the John Parks Workshop show. So come on by for lots and lots of great Adafruit content. Bye-bye, everyone.